Welcome to our podcast, Navigating the Healing Path with Maggie and Nicki. Over the course of our first season, with episodes uploaded every Tuesday, we will be discussing the instrumental building blocks to living an authentic and heart-based life. It is our desire and intention that through our channelings and conversations, we can offer a feeling of relief, connection, and hope for those walking this challenging path. So if this podcast feels like it interests you or resonates on some level, then we'd be honored if you stuck around to listen.
And to kick off this first episode, we're going to introduce ourselves a little bit. Then we'll be demonstrating what our process is for moving beyond our mind's fears and limiting beliefs with the intention to let it all go so it no longer gets in the way of us living our purpose. Oh yeah, that means we get into all the reasons why our minds say we shouldn't be doing this podcast. So let's get started.
Hello and welcome to Navigating the Healing Path with Maggie and Nicki. I am Nicki. It is such a great honor and privilege to be here, to be sharing and connecting and just holding space for whatever messages need to come out there, whatever anybody needs to hear. I am here to hold space for it. And I would love to introduce everyone to this amazing human and young woman that I've had the privilege of knowing for the last couple of years and working with on her spiritual journey. And so everyone, meet Maggie.
Hi. Thank you for that very lovely introduction.
Well, you are an amazing human being, and I love this opportunity to showcase that. So let's practice sharing who we are, and tell me a little bit about yourself, like a little bit about your past. Like, what are you into? Who are you, Miss Maggie?
Not a existential large question at all.
No, super simple, barely an inconvenience.
Yeah. I do really love this opportunity, though, to get to express who I am at a deep core. And because I feel like we don't get to do that very often in the world. A lot of it has to do with like identification with a job or where you live or maybe some hobbies. So to kind of change that standard, I am an artist. I am a creative. And I want to bring as much love and healing and inspiration to the world as much as I can. And if that's through videos that I make or podcasts that I co-host or music that I compose or, I don't know, just being in presence with someone else, then that brings me such deep joy. And that's what I want to spend as much of my time doing on this planet, in this life, just as much as I can.
I love that. I love knowing you for this long and seeing how far you've come, that you're able to clearly and concisely express that. Because I remember when I first met you and we first started working together on meditation and awareness and like all of that, it was harder for you to say these things.
It was super hard.
And I love just how far you've come and just really how grounded it all feels. Like you have been looking at yourself in a really meaningful, healing kind of way. So how long have you been, would you say, on this healing journey of yours?
I partially want to say, my entire life. I feel like that's just kind of the nature of being a soul and a body on this planet. It's all healing. But I guess actually becoming more conscious and choosing to want to go within and to search and to heal and to accept more parts of myself and all parts of myself. I would say probably about the last 5 years that I've been navigating this, whatever this path is called.
But however you want to label this path that you're on. I get that.
An internal self-discovery journey. Feels like what I've really been consciously walking the last 5 years or so.
Yeah, right on. You've had a very interesting journey anyway through like the arts and creativity. And it was interesting when you came into my life, you're like, yeah, I'm doing this thing. I'm a cinematographer. I do this. And then very quickly you're like, but am I? You know? And I remember seeing you, and I knew from like the beginning that, you know, you're a light worker. And I love light workers, and they are in all of the areas of professionals, you know, like if you hold your light and you share that, therefore you are working with it. You are a light worker. And so watching you come online and begin to embody that and recognize your core, your spirit, your essence, and integrating that into your everyday has been a beautiful thing to behold. And so I feel like even though you consider yourself young, and I get that, I still feel like you have a lot to offer from your perspective. You know, you're still connected to all the new things, and yet you can still hold space and understand how things used to be, because that's what you have been recognizing within yourself. Like, okay, I could see how that's like that, but I'm really a fan of how this is headed over here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I receive all of that with wide open arms, and I was going to say a defenseless heart. That sounds that sounds kind of intense, but I think I'll just go with it anyway.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's actually really nice. That makes me feel really good.
Oh,
it's just
okay,
like,
yeah, you see where I'm coming from.
I just took down my defenses. I'll say, oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, unguarded with an unguarded heart. But yeah, no, thank you. Thank you. That means a lot, because being younger, still I guess I'm in my mid-20s now. I am still new to living a spiritually aligned life, and I am at the beginning stages of building this foundation for myself, of being able to move through life authentically and leading from my heart and being guided by intuition rather than mental beliefs and old expectations. And I am just so excited and joyful and curious about all things of the internal world and the internal journey. And I just want to continue to share that and express that with the world, because that feels like why I'm here.
That's been very consistent. I've been hearing you say that, and I feel like more and more that is absolutely what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I am here for it. I think you have so many gifts to offer, from your creative side to just how you hold space, and just you being in your light and in your power is a gift to everyone around you. And I feel like that's the work that you're doing, is you're uncovering that. You're discovering and really integrating your spiritual self into this physical reality. And it's amazing. And everyone should just stick around just to watch Maggie shift. It's been amazing so far. I highly recommend.
My mind just got a little... This is totally on brand with what's to come with the rest of this episode. Yeah. So we hope you stick around. But my mind was just like, oh my gosh, like I'm going to have some friends that are interested in this podcast, and this is going to be a whole new side of myself that I haven't gotten the opportunity yet, or the know-how and the full, I don't want to say like that I didn't have courage to express this part of myself, but I feel like a good way to sum up where I've been has been the cocoon. I've been in the cocoon phase, growing my wings. And I feel like I'm just starting to take my little creepy butterfly, little, what are they called? Not antennas, but the little hands, the arms. a derailed analogy. I just freaked myself out with the bug anatomy. But I'm breaking out of the cocoon.
You're emerging.
Yeah.
Well, amazing. I'm so glad you're here. So glad.
Thank you. I'm so glad you were here. And I'm gonna take reign of the mic and introduce you, who is equally, if not more so, a super rad, awesome human being. And I have been so honored to get to do meditation work with you. I would consider you a mentor along this journey. And you came into my life at such a very important time. And I feel like you and all of the gifts that you hold and the power that you have, I'm always so grateful to receive whatever it is that you offer. And you offer so much. So I guess with that little bit of an intro from me, how would you like to introduce yourself and your gifts and what you're here to do?
Well, I thank you for your words of affirmation and your perspective. And I definitely receive with an open heart the words and intentions, and it warms me. And thank you so much. This is probably one of the more harder things for me to do in general, is talk about myself, because I've learned to minimize my gifts because I don't want to take up too much room or make anybody feel bad if they don't have these gifts. So this is a really good practice for me. What I've learned about myself through holding space for others who are on their healing journey, I realized some years ago that I fancy myself a healer's healer. They are my favorites. I absolutely love working with people who are on an active healing journey, who are in therapy, who are journaling, who are like exploring and trying to figure out themselves and heal things, and who want to look and connect. I'm like, oh yes, this is amazing. This is like all the recipe that I need to do what it is that I do. And through working with others like yourself in particular, because if you recall when we started working together, it was very mutually beneficial. Because you're like, what is this meditation thing? And how do I calm myself down? It does not feel good to be in my body. I'm not a big fan of this. What do we do? And I was in this place where it's like, yes, I can help you. Let me practice being a teacher, and like talking about this and working through processes and maybe handing over some tools if you are so inclined. So you helped me identify the parts of me that I needed to strengthen in that time of the holding the space and asking the questions and making sure my mind is outside. So being the healer's healer, being able to hold space for people, to ask questions, to hold up lights. I realize I am not here to do anything outside of what you're asking or like the support that you need. The core of who I am is love and light. This is my knowing. This is what I have worked towards, connecting to that light that I kept hidden for so long out of fear, and allowing myself to blare it at all times, to just allow it to be where and what it is in the situation to serve mine and everyone else's highest good. That sort of is my jam. But I've also learned it could be kind of dangerous out there. And so I have some good boundaries and protection. But when I get to work with people who come to see me, who want to connect to themselves, to their own inner healer, because that is ultimately what I feel like I'm here to do, is help individuals remember who they are, to connect to their own inner light, to be reminded that they can heal themselves no matter the trauma. There is healing that can come from that. There is insights and lessons to behold, and to learn how to release the things that don't serve you, that just keep your system all gunked up and full and out of the flow state. So kind of like a guide, a way shower, an energy holder. It's like the work that I'm told I'm doing right now is I'm a conduit. I love holding a really high frequency so that the healing energy can come in. And then whoever is there to receive it is able to receive it. And it will do what it needs to do. And that's that. This is a lot of stuff. I feel like this is a lot. I'm sorry.
Please don't apologize. I was actually just about to say that I admire your ability to communicate these things and to allow yourself the space to get your feelings and your ideas out. And it's multifaceted because as long as I've known you, which is the last few years, I feel like you have had a hard time finding what the label is because there's not a lot of representation in the world right now for the work that you do and the work that you're doing it and for those that you're doing the work for. And so there's no quick, easy label that you can slap on all of the facets of you that you are and the gifts that you have.
Right.
And so I think that's totally okay and fair to share all that you shared about yourself. And I admire it because I feel like mine right now, that also shows where we are on our journeys too a little bit. I feel like I'm not able to, because I'm still coming online and trying to understand the gifts that I do have. But I feel like my stuff right now, I can't talk about it as deeply yet as you're talking about the work that you do. And I just admire that. And I also admire your love and your passion around it because you could talk about it forever.
I really could.
And that's not a bad thing. I think that's a wonderful sign.
There's so much I get from holding space for other people. There's so many facets of myself I get to have reflected. It's like everyone that I work with, I get to know more of me. You know, and that to me is just really beautiful. It is. I'm always learning more about myself just by holding space for the healer who I'm supporting, who I'm holding space for.
And just to share a little bit more, I guess more specifically about the healing journey that you've been on. How long has this been for you? And do you just want to share a little outline about that?
Yeah, my healing journey has been the last several decades. I started realizing early on, I started massaging people when I was 8, actually. Actually, even before that, I used to massage my parents' feet because that's what they taught me to do. Like, help me feel better. Okay. But it was when there was a family tragedy and we lost my cousin. He was young. It was an accident. And I offered to massage my aunts and my uncles. Like, can I would bring my parents comfort, so I wanted to bring comfort. And that was when I started to be like, oh, that's fun, that's cool. I started to get a lot of attention because I have these magic hands, I got a lot of positive regard for that. And I remember like around like 11, 12, I started to become really curious about why. What is it about this touch? And when Barnes and Noble was huge and big back in the 90s, I was in the clearance section because, that's where I shop. And there was a book called The Healing Power of Touch. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I bought it and I learned about touch and why it's so important in different cultures and how they do it and how babies can die without it. Blew my mind that there's women or people out there that will go hold babies who have been orphaned so that they can thrive. They need to be touched. I'm like, ooh, there's something really here. So time goes on and I'm told I should go be a teacher, but I'm like super interested in all this other stuff. And psychology became the thing that got my attention. The mind. Ooh, why are we the way that we are? Okay, we need the touch. Okay, people need this, but why are we all crazy? Why is my family super nuts? Why am I crazy? And so that became my education in the development of the psyche, of the mind, which was fascinating. And so I began to have this curiosity around the connection between the mind, the body, and then ultimately the spirit. Because I've always been like, oh, I want to be religious. Let me try this. No, that was terrible. That was not good for me. I don't like being told what to do. So this has been an ongoing thing. I've always been interested in this work, which is why it's funny that I've avoided it for so long. Just running. Like, no, I can do it. No, I can't. There has been times where my mind is like, you can't massage people. You're not healed. What makes you think you can help them? You're a mess. So I would run into these limiting beliefs constantly, keeping me back, keeping me isolated, keeping me in my suffering. But it would never last long. My spirit's way, way stronger than that. So that, in a really big nutshell, pretty encompasses where I'm at.
Yeah. But I did just want to validate really quickly the gifts that you do have and the titles that you feel drawn to. Healer's healer for me, for you, is incredibly accurate. And I really love the spiritual doula. That has been kind of within this space. And I know that you've been kind of trying that hat on for the last like a couple months, I guess. Mm-hmm. But to me, that really deeply resonates. And I feel like that's the work that you've offered me, and the help that I've been able to receive from you is your spiritual doula work, where you just held so much space for me to look at all of these different facets within myself. And I feel like, I know you would say that you didn't do anything and that all of the work came from me, but you offered the space and the safety for me to look. And so no matter what your mind says, and no matter what anybody else says, you have, for me, been those things and have offered me absolutely invaluable things on my journey. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thanks for doing this podcast. Mm-hmm. I love everything that we're building together. And just to transition into the rest of the episode, the way that we want to start these episodes off before we really get into the meat and potatoes of it all, we would like to take an opportunity to drop in to our hearts and to create some space for ourselves to connect with our spirit,
with our higher self,
with our hearts.
With our hearts. Open to receive, open to share. Shall we use the bowl?
I'm down.
Should we try that out?
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite bowls. This was the first bowl I was gifted. And I remember when I played it for the first time, my heart center just lit up, and it just makes me feel really happy. So let's just, I'm going to play the bowl, and we're going to take a moment to connect with our heart and drop ourselves down from our mind all the way down. So take a deep breath all together. Just notice. Feel your breath. Breathe in again. And bring your awareness down to your heart. And let's stay there for the next 45 minutes or so. So before we dive into all the reasons why our mind says that we should not be doing this podcast, I would like to discuss first a little bit this concept of mind. I know a lot of people, it's out there in the ether. People are talking about it now, which I love. So when we talk about the mind or the ego, the harsh warden that lives in our head that tells us all sorts of things about who we are and what we should be doing or not doing, and it can be a very harsh taskmaster. So oftentimes the mind will come up with reasons why we shouldn't do the things that we really want to do, and these are what people call limiting beliefs. right? These thoughts that make you feel like you're not worthy of doing this thing or deserving or capable, even though there's something inside you that's really, really drawn to that. And these are the kinds of thoughts and the things that get in the way of you living your authentic life, of pursuing passions that light you up. Because we're inundated with this fear-based programming through society and culture and our families, and the big buzzword these days is generational trauma, and we're all got to heal this and treat each other better. So this is just sort of the work of observing the mind, because thoughts matter. They really do. Thoughts become matter. What you think, what you choose to see is what you get. Because the universe is, from my understanding, is always conspiring to give you exactly what you're thinking about. So this is why becoming self-aware, and as you wake up on your spiritual journey, like the spiritual awakening, is you wake up to yourself, to your thoughts, the programs that were given to you, and then assessing, does this work for me still? Because obviously it did. You were using it your whole entire life for survival. But then if you're not getting the results that you desire to see in your life, you have to, the invitation, not have to, we don't have to do anything, but the invitation is to then begin to look within, see where it comes from. Does it serve you? Do you want to keep acting like that or showing up like that in your life? So this is part of the thing where we get to look at the mind. What is important to your mind? Why is that even important to know? Because it affects how you live, what you get to receive. So one of the first things that we do when we begin to become self-aware and we wake up consciously, collecting the data to study the programs of the mind. And one of the best ways that I've discovered, one of the number one transformation tools out there, is meditation, because it's in that meditative space where you hear a lot of people like, oh, I can't meditate. My mind goes the whole entire time. I'm like, great, excellent. Listen.
Yeah.
What is it telling you?
That's the whole point.
It's the whole point. Like, you can sit there for 20 minutes. Your mind could be talking to you the whole time. Congratulations, you still meditated.
Yep.
You still sat there with your eyes closed, observing. The idea is to eventually put the thoughts aside. Like, oh, yeah, I know. My grocery list, super important right now. Noted, not now, I'm meditating. So that's the space where you get to discover yourself, the thoughts and the programs that run you. So as part of our process here of starting this podcast, we get to practice moving beyond the mind and the limiting beliefs there. So we're going to be outing our mind, saying all of the silly things out loud that's supposed to stay inside, and we're going to put it outside. And we're going to let everyone hear it, and we're going to go through like a little process around this. Anywho.
Yep. I am nervous, but also excited to just let all of the things that my mind has been telling me for so much of my life. I know this is going to be super cathartic, and I also really hope that this, like for both of us sharing this, is just an invitation for anybody else out there to notice their own limiting beliefs and the silly lies, like the mean little lies that our brains and egos tell us, but to not take them so seriously and to be like, you know what, like I see you and I can still move forward with the things that really bring me joy or excitement or creativity. So hell yeah, let's get into it. Do you want to kick it off?
Yeah.
We can go from there?
Yeah. So individually, what we decided to do was just kind of like journal a little bit to kind of give our minds some space to allow the fear to be shown. So like we can so we wrote it out, all the reasons. There's like a list of it. So one of the first things that my mind was all like, Nikki, you're really good at starting things, but you're kind of rubbish at finishing or staying committed or this or that. And I'm just like, well, that has judgment all over it, doesn't it? So that was like one of the first things is like, well, it's like defeatist even out the gate. Like, why bother starting if you're not going to go anywhere with it. You know, or you'll start it and then you're going to put it down like everything else. And it's just so funny how the mind just gets so absolute with things, even in this like recollection of your history. I'm like, well, actually, thanks, but no thanks, because I can think of plenty of times where I did follow through and I committed. I mean, I graduated college and I moved and took care of myself and became a massage therapist. And I have this certification in craniosacral. And like, it's like, I've done all these things. And that's the lie. That's the lie of the mind that tries to keep you safe from doing things that could be upsetting. You know
what I've noticed, because I have that very same.
You have
like,
that one
program
too.
Thought. Yeah. For me, I've noticed it's mostly only around creative projects that I think that could just be fun, or like something that I know like would make me feel good. Those are the times when the mind comes in. It's like, okay, but like you're not really going to stick with it. So like why start? But it's just interesting because I also finished college and have a degree. And there are certain things that I think are more deemed acceptable by society, or like from my close circle, where it was like, oh yeah, I have no problem putting in the work to do this, because there's already some expected or like known reward that you're going to get for doing it. So the mind is like, okay, cool. We can kind of like jump into the future and we know this is going to be worth it because other people around us are going to be okay with it. But for my creative projects, like music especially, I'm like, why put in all the work? Like, I'm so great at sitting down for like an hour or two and getting a rough like demo of a song. And then it's so hard to return to it and to like actually take the steps to go through and to quote unquote like complete it and to get it to a finished state. So it's just interesting how that works.
For sure. And I could poke holes in all of it at this point now that I've gone through like a lot of this, like knowing my programs and like the thoughts. And as I like replace the old thoughts with like the new thoughts, like it's just sort of automatic now where I'm just like, well, actually, this is true. And I think that's just part of like where I am. But
yeah,
the creativity in general, you know, I can see that because it's inspiration. It's being in a flow state sometimes and creating space for it too. You know, just holding that space with, and just judgment. Just I don't use judgment as a tool anymore. It was around me, you know, growing up, so I just learned all about it. But really,
it's a great motivator when you're young and you don't feel like you have any other option.
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm with you. I don't think either of us need that anymore.
No, I've decommissioned that one.
Nice.
Because it just doesn't serve. Especially not in like the healing work that I do with others as I support and hold space like that. It was one of the first ones to go when I started my transformation work.
Yeah. And it's ultimately not sustainable. Like negative motivators for things is really
burn you out.
It's a short-term method basically of motivating yourself. It's not going to last.
And it feels diminishing opposed to building.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was like one of the first things. And then the silliest thing, like not even just silly, because like I don't want to label that silly, but I don't even want to say it. That's so funny. Like it's written right there. I could just say it. It's right there. And It's just like, oh man, do I really want to tell everybody that I've battled and struggled with depression my whole life? Like,
do you know how relatable that's going to be? How many people out there are going to be like, yeah, me too.
Like, we're
Please
not allowed.
talk about it.
I don't want to talk about my depression I've had since I was a child. Like, who wants to hear that?
So many people. So many people. But if that's not enough for your mind, I want to hear about it because I've related.
Because
I've had my own struggles.
Depression, and I've heard this from like so many other people, but it's a symptom of something that's just not balanced, like something that's not being acknowledged, and like repressed emotions and just the sadness and the disconnection and like all this loneliness and how it really affects your brain. And I used to be a nanny for a psychologist one time, and what she said really stuck with me one time, which at first concerned me and like made me feel bad about my brain. But then it's like, That's okay. I have tools now. Like, so yes, I have had depression since I was in single digits, pretty much.
Wow.
Like just sad and alone and just broken. Like I felt broken. But as I've gotten older and I've been on this journey, this healing path for 30 years, you know, because I recognize this at a young age, like being suicidal at 12 years old, you know, it's just always been there. And my relationship with it has shifted. So where it used to take me out, because I didn't have any coping skills growing up, it used to take me out for weeks, months, years even. But since I really started doing the transformation work years ago about like learning how to hold space and have healthy boundaries, you know, being an empath and everything and super, super sensitive, hence the inclination towards depression, because I can feel everyone else's sadness and frustration and like all of that. So it's like I just absorbed it like a little sponge. But the confidence I have now is like, even if it is there and present, I could acknowledge it and go, oh, look, I need to rest. My body is feeling depressed. So I'm going to honor that. And, okay, what do I do? What do I do in my depression? I meditate. I sleep. I take care of myself more. I reach out. So like I have tools now. So even this limiting belief is like, well, what if you just get really depressed? It's like, well, okay, if I do, I have tools now. I have a support system. So that one I didn't even want to share that one. You know what I mean?
So to clarify, your mind was telling you, was it your mind or your depression that was telling you like, hey, like the depression could come back and then what? Mm-hmm.
Probably my mind. No, it was definitely in my mind.
Okay.
Because like, oh, that's actually an interesting question. Does my depression talk to me? Oh, I'll have to look at that. I wonder if it has a voice. I'm going to have to look at that.
Cool.
I'm going to have to look at that.
Let me know. Let me know what you find.
I will. I will. But yeah, that was just like one of like the reasons why my mind was like, are you sure you want to do this? You tend to get sad. What was next on your list?
Oh, I don't think I've. So for anybody listening, I had to like quickly jot down the limiting beliefs and the fears that I remembered, because I wrote like 4 pages last week. I had like a whole thought and feeling dump. But on my drive in, I completely forgot the notebook that had all of my limiting beliefs and all of my fears. And I'm like, well, shucks. So not going to say that I'm underprepared, but I have a condensed list, let's say. But the first one that I jotted down again, and which is the main one of what my mind and my ego are really scared of, is what will my family and my friends think if I tell them or they find this podcast on their own?
Yep.
Yeah.
Same.
That one's the hardest one for me.
What will they say or think?
Yeah, because my mind is so terrified of what other people are going to think of me. And that's been a major theme in my entire life, like ever since I was a little kid. Yeah, the mind is like, oh my God. Like if a family member who isn't really doing this work or is on this path, like finds like a YouTube video somehow. Although I guess now I'm realizing if they're stumbling upon a spiritual conversation podcast, you know what? They're probably like pretty open to this, right? They wouldn't be seeing that content if they weren't at a certain point.
Don't come here if you don't want to hear it all. You know, like, no.
Exactly. But I haven't told anybody about this podcast. I know you haven't really talked to many people, at least the ones that don't feel safe to talk about
community.
This. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But this one's, I've been realizing, is especially hard for me because, oh yeah, hold on, sorry, side note, just not only family and friends, but all the people that I used to work with in the film industry. I have all of these connections and I'm like, oh my God, what if they just like stumble upon that? Because have recently realized that I no longer want to work in the film industry. And so I'm kind of having a quarter life existential change of mind and body and spirit and career path. So who knows what's ahead for me. But if they find this and they're like, wow, like 2 years ago, she was doing grip and electric on a set. And now this is what she's doing.
Judgment.
Yeah, judgment. The main thing that I've been realizing from that is that main fear is really a reflection of the part of myself that is still scared to come out of the spiritual closet, if you will.
I feel like this is a total coming out of the spiritual closet for both of us.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's terrifying because I'm still surrounded by a lot of people who are not doing this work. And so I've kind of, like, they know me a certain way that I've been for most of my life. But this is such a drastic change. And the part of me that's scared of the judgment is mostly like, oh my God, they're just like, they're not going to resonate. And then they're going to judge it. And then they're going to think that I've gone like completely off the rails. Yeah. I don't know. All of it for me is just this giant symbol of like, I know I'm stepping like fully into this path and into my authenticity, but it's so scary when the life that surrounds me, that's been around me my whole life, I don't know if they're going to support it. And that's the fear of like the ego and the mind is like, it's kind of worried about losing the connections that I have around me. And yeah, the last few months I've been trying to gauge like the safety of the information that I share with certain people. And I think that's what's really like getting me right now is like, I feel like not that I'm lying to people, but the fear of other people's judgment is really just that mirror for, okay, like I can see that I'm still hiding myself out of fear. And so this is just something that I get to look at and that I get to continue to work through. And this podcast is kind of like the first major step or like the main major step of being like, you know what? It's okay. I'm going to come out of the spiritual closet. But apparently a theme of my life is coming out of closets. So I guess this isn't... Ooh, I'm still in the closet sexuality-wise with some other people too. So they find this podcast, they're just going to get hit with like, oh my God.
There's a whole lot of truth in there.
Yeah. I had no idea who my niece is. Surprise. Anyway.
What was coming to me as you were sharing that, besides I totally relate to that?
Yeah.
What I was hearing was like, I feel the people who will end up finding it will be pleasantly surprised or be like, huh, she's a lot deeper than I saw before.
Aww.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, wow, this is a different facet or a deeper part of her. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like for your people, the people who respect and value and love you for who you are and not for what you do or what role or service you provide for their comfort and edification. But I think the people that are really drawn will be delighted, ultimately.
Oh, okay. I received that.
Because I have really enjoyed getting to know you over like the last couple of years, because you used to work at Endless Mile Studios when you were in the film industry, and you've been shifting as we all have. And just as life has been coming and challenging us, it's just sort of got us to focus on really living our highest path and being true to ourselves and following our passions. So you getting to like practice being vulnerable in front of me and tapping into your spiritual side and meditation and awareness and channeling and grounding. I'm like, oh my gosh, you've just been such a joy and a blessing to observe and support.
Aww.
So any haters out there, you can fuck right off because that's your problem. Seriously, this is what Spirit's been telling me for a while is you cannot... I am not responsible for how people receive my messages or my truth. That is not my job to heal others or help them process unless they're paying me and they want my help.
Yeah. That's crossing a boundary, right? By trying to control somebody's reaction of what you tell them.
That's that emotional immaturity that we grew up around where there wasn't room for our truth or our hurt feelings because they didn't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
You know, there was no infrastructure for that. There was like, I don't know what to do with this. Shut it down. No, you're bad. Stop it.
delete.
Yeah. But I really relate to that because being seen, like in my past, would terrify me. I've been trying to hide since I've been a kid. Getting made fun of and bullied also for being overweight or like smart or awkward, because I'm socially awkward. I'm kind of a weirdo. I love my weirdo side now, but growing up, that was not a desired attribute.
Yeah. I had so much social anxiety growing up.
Mm-hmm. So the confidence, and this is what I love about getting older though too. Like once I hit my 30s, I really stopped caring as much what other people said because I really started to realize they can't see me. People can't really see who they're looking at. They see reflections of themselves. And if you're seeing something that you don't like, they're just showing you a facet of you that you haven't healed yet. Because otherwise it wouldn't bother you that they were being like that or saying that. There was something inside of you that's bothered by it.
Yeah. And that's also a reflection that they're not okay with that in themselves either.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And so then everybody involved gets the opportunity to heal it.
Mm-hmm. I've slowly, over the years, just don't care. I'm just really not caring. And it's more important for me to be authentic and share myself and my gifts with the people who can respectfully receive it and who want it and who value it. Because that's actually also on my list is why me? Who am I? Why would anybody want to listen to me have the conversation with Maggie? But ultimately, I'm here to be of service,
Yeah, that's one of mine too, who am I to be talking about any of this stuff? Because I wrote down, I don't have a degree in spirituality. I don't have a degrry in meditation or awareness.
Is there even a degree in meditation?
No, which is so silly.
I give you one.
Thank you. I am now certified in spirituality. But yeah, I mean, that's a total, like, just societal limiting belief and program that's been ingrained in my mind because my parents were always like, the most valuable thing that you can have as you get older and going into the quote unquote working world is having a degree.
Right.
And
you must be certified.
Yeah. And kind of like a facet off of this too is there's so much content and information out there online anyway. And there are so many people. Well, this is where it gets so silly because there's so many people who have podcasts and who are saying things that are really spreading some unhealthy and not very kind information. And they're out there happily and confidently talking. So why not us? Mm-hmm.
What I can appreciate is that we are coming from love, from being in our hearts, from speaking our truth through love, and just sharing where we are without any agenda.
Yeah.
We're just being.
Mm-hmm. But there really is so much content and information out in the world already. Mm-hmm. Like, and I constantly fall into like information and like stimulation overload from just like watching content. And it's, I don't know if anybody else deals with this in like their spiritual path and journey. But the stuff that I'm scrolling through, it's not even like, it's mostly like conscious material. And then my brain is just getting overloaded with, oh yeah, okay, I need to like analyze this and I need to look over this. Oh yeah, I need to like heal that part of myself. And it's like just total spiritual healing information influx. And then it overstimulates my head. And then I'm just like out for like the rest of the day because I get overwhelmed with the amount that I quote unquote still have to do to be healed. And so, yeah, there's a lot of information. So my brain is like, you're constantly shoving your brain with this stuff. Like, do you really want to add more fuel to the fire? But also people have a choice whether they listen to this or not.
Facts.
Yep. And they can gauge for themselves.
They don't have to listen.
They don't.
We don't need anybody to believe us or validate what we're saying because that's not why we're doing this.
Nope.
So that doesn't matter. It seems like moot at that point. you know.
It does. What's next on yours?
So this one points at my fear of abandonment.
Fun.
And it's like, well, what if Maggie gets tired of me and quits?
Oh.
And then I left all by myself.
Oh, that's so silly. I understand the laugh because why would I have been doing like meditations with you for an entire year? Why would I agree to this if I didn't want to be here?
I had a lot of people pretend to be my friend growing up because they wanted something.
Yeah.
They wanted my time, my yummy, yummy, delicious attention and energy. And then once they were done, they'd leave. This was a pattern.
Relatable.
Until I was in my 20s. And I'm like, I got to look at this. I also moved away to a more open environment because Ohio was not for me. There was not anybody that like I really could connect with or be seen by. It was all status quo from my experience. There's lovely things, I'm sure, about every place in this country. But for me, I needed to be in Los Angeles. I felt a big, big calling. And this is where I began to find my people, the people that were like, oh, wow, you're an amazing conduit. I'm like, I am? You can feel me? So that was really neat. Because I always felt it. I always kind of knew, but I never had that validated or seen until I came here. Not really. Well, maybe by my one cousin who got me to go to a shaman's retreat in college. That was amazing.
Yeah, that sounds super rad.
It was. But yeah, huge. Maggie, you're totally going to get tired of me. This is the lie of my mind. You're going to be like, Nikki, no, you're garbage.
Oh my God.
Oh, I know. She's a bitch.
Have you, okay.
Oh, I know. Becky.
Do you
Becky's
know?
my mind. She's such a bitch.
Okay. You know my track record. Number one, you said garbage, right?
Yeah.
That's not even in like my vernacular.
It isn't. I know.
Like at all. Could you imagine me calling someone garbage?
No, not easily.
No, not even when I was like fully unconscious. I'm like, that's so mean. I could never.
I know. See, I know this.
Oh, and I know
the
you
lies
know this.
of the mind.
Yeah.
This is the fear of like, oh, you're not good enough for anybody to care about you or come around or want to get to know you at all.
Oh my God.
These are the lies.
So
and this
silly.
is what I get to move past every day.
Yep.
Like, shh. Nah.
Well, I think you're absolutely amazing. And
Thank
you have taught me so fucking much. And I think you're an incredibly valuable and lovely person to be around. And I hope we're in each other's lives for as long as we, I guess, need to be, however long we're contracted to hang out for. If that's for the rest of time, sick. I'm not mad. Maybe see you in the next life too.
Thanks, I received that.
But you're pretty dope.
Thank you.
And have so much to offer.
Ah, thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
For anybody who is wondering, probably not at all, because I think I just gave it away. My first love language is words of affirmation. Just share that about myself.
I recognize that. I like
Yeah.
praising you with words of encouragement and validation.
And I love receiving those words of affirmation and validation. Much appreciated.
It's really nice when you can recognize something that really fulfills you and the people around you are just like, yeah, let me give this to you. You know, just because they love you and they want you to feel good.
Yeah.
And it's just so nice to practice receiving. You know, especially when you're a natural giver like we are. Mm-hmm. You know, like we just want to give and love people. It's just really nice when the energy is balanced.
Yeah.
When you're in relationships with people who are respectful and conscious and be like, just fill you up as much as you fill them. You know, it's balanced. I love it.
You've honestly been one of the first people ever that I feel like mirrors my energy and what I've been trying to do for people. Granted, a lot of like what I was trying to do for people, like with the people pleasing and being codependent, that obviously wasn't from like a super healthy place. But I feel like there was always that intention, also being like an empath. Like I want, my mind just judged me a little bit for using that word. That's fun. I'm going to roll with it anyway. But being super sensitive. But I always want the people around me to feel loved and to feel comforted. But you're really, I think, probably the first person that I also found was like that. And to be able to finally receive what I feel like I've been giving out to people, it was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are people out there like me, and I can form these beautiful, like deeply conscious and aware and balanced relationships, which is so huge. Because I feel like I'm at the point right now where I've really, I'm realizing it's been a major theme of the people in my life. I think have also, certain people, not everyone, obviously. But a lot of my past, like romantic relationships, I think a lot of it really was people using me for what I had to offer. And me being like I think like bleeding heart, is that the right term?
Sure.
Of just being like, oh, I want to be there for you. Like, let me just like hold all the things that you've gone through and let me just give you space and give you love. And I can be that for you even when you can't be that for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I resonate with that.
Yes.
But, whew.
One of the other points that my mind wanted me to look at on why I shouldn't be doing this is it goes back to my burden program, which is like, well, be a lot less work and easier to not do this, you know, like to put myself out there, to do all the research, to plan all of the episodes with you and to write and to channel. And it's just like, oh man, I don't know. It's a lot of work. I don't know.
Yeah. That actually just reminded me that one of the ones that I had on my original draft was why put in the work? Like, I don't know that it's going to end up being worth it in the end. Like, my mind has all these like, oh, well, it's only a successful podcast if it ends up like getting monetized and it becomes like a major stream of income for both of us. All of these like businessy, like very masculine forward, like society.
This is what success looks like. Mm-hmm. It has to look like this in order for it to be good. Yeah. But it's a limiting belief in general. But like, look at that. Like, it stops you even before you get started. And this is why I feel really important to acknowledge and look at these things, because it doesn't serve our highest good. Mm-mm. It just keeps us stuck and playing small, which I know that both of us are done with.
Yeah.
I'm done playing small. I'm large. I have a lot of energy. I hold really good space, and it could get really big, and that's okay. I'm learning to just have faith and trust that I'm always exactly where I need to be and doing exactly what I need to be doing or being or showing up as.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter how much work it is, because if there's joy in it, it makes it fun. It's flow, you know?
Yeah, this really feels like an opportunity for both of us to let's just do it for fun.
Yeah.
You know, it's joyful.
It is. I love talking to you. Like, seriously.
Yeah, same.
Love it.
With that, did you have more stuff on your list, or did you actually want to start rolling into the reasons why we should be doing this?
I think I covered it all. It's so funny. There's one last one that goes, I don't know, something about money. You know, like, It was like a half-hearted attempt of my mind to be like trying to scrape the barrel with something. Let me find something. There has to be something about money, right? Like, there's a reason.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, now you're just trying too hard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, for me, that was also another one that was on the original journal that I did. And kind of ties into like that whole like, oh, business, we have to make something off of this.
It has to make money.
Yeah. But I think for me, that's amplified because I am currently unemployed and have been for a month. Mm-hmm. And so I'm in the practice of also trusting that I'm exactly where I need to be and that I don't really need to be forcing anything to happen, and that it's all happening for my highest good, and that I'm walking the aligned path every single day. But definitely get that money thing from the ego. And with both of us having such strong earth placements, astrologically speaking, in our charts, that's very much like practical, logical. Like, we are going to make things happen in the physical, like Capricorn boss ass bitch. But time and place.
Yeah. So before we move on to the other thing, I would like to just take a moment and honor our minds and the fear that it peddles. It's only doing what it was programmed to do to help keep us safe. Because being small and keeping things inside was safe. It's what made us safe, to avoid punishment, ridicule, judgment, and all of those things. So thank you, mind, for sharing your thoughts on this endeavor that we're doing. I see it. See where you're coming from. Thank you so much. I just visualize putting that aside, and I allow it to flow out and down. I release it to the earth, to source, to wherever my system, out my solar plexus, wants to release it. Because at this point where I'm at and with what I'm doing, those limiting beliefs no longer serve me. It's only in the way. So I graciously and gratefully release it. And so it is.
And so it is. Beautiful. Can I share what, as you were saying that, what I was kind of doing, a little visualization in my head? My releasing process, like for me, I feel very connected to my inner child when I speak these fears out loud. And it really does just feel like that scaredness and not so much like judgment, which is interesting. Although I guess fear is always behind judgment. That's really what's going on. So I just imagined my soul, my higher self, the real me, giving my inner kid and like my inner teen just like a hug. Just be like, it's okay. It's all okay. And we can still do this, and it'll be exactly what it needs to be.
Yep.
And just still giving them little hugs. And I can feel it just kind of like washing and releasing down into the roots and into the earth.
Nice.
And creating more space within.
So as we release, anything that we release has the potential to leave a void. And it's important for us to fill the void that is left by all the negative thoughts, beliefs, all of those things, to replace it with light. So this is the space where we get to fill it with light and declare and intend why we should be doing this.
What's your top reason for doing this?
The top one is my life path is a 3, which is communication.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that for you.
So communication is my life. It's what I have sought to strengthen as I grew up, because I grew up in an environment that had little to no communication, to being in a relationship with a man who's like, nope, we are going to communicate. I'm like, wait, what are we doing? This is very uncomfortable. And then like years later, when I found out like the life path, it's an astrology thing again. You guys will get used to this. It just brought a lot of insight. I'm like, I was also really kind of low-key mad. I was like, fuck you. You mean my life path is my biggest challenge in life? That is not fair. I was so mad.
It's pretty silly how that works.
It's like,
isn't
man,
it?
I'm at a handicap. I have a deficit in communication, and that's my purpose.
Yeah, and that's exactly why you're here to work on that in this life.
Yep. Yeah. To be seen, to use my words, my messages, my stories, and share it and communicate and help others communicate and hold space and all of these things that I've just been practicing for decades. I need it. It's a need. It's like, that's like there. It's like I feel compelled Like there is this inner drive that's like has been pushing me for decades since I had the vision as a teenager of being on stage and talking to people. It's like, no, really, go on, go be seen. And I'm like, oh, that's really dangerous. That goes against all of my programs. That is unsafe. Cannot do that. But it's like, I've learned to, well, accept it and connect to the excitement and the purpose-driven life. You know, like this is just something I have to do. And it just so beautifully ties in with the being of service, because this is just one facet, one area that I can reach people with my words, with my experience, with my energy, you know? Yeah, and it just feels natural. And I know we talked about that last week on our tech rehearsal, just like having the headphones, speaking the microphone, talking to each other. I'm like, this just feels right.
Yeah. There is a very nice natural flow to it. Mm-hmm. Like once we both dropped down
into the heart.
Yeah, into the heart and felt more into the space and getting out of the head. But yeah, I feel all of that very much. Yeah. My first one was I get to practice being heard and being seen. Because my entire life I've dimmed myself and I've changed my words to fit other people's stories. And I'm actually, right now I'm remembering, so music, I know I mentioned making music before. Music has been a huge part of my life. I remember when I was a teenager, I played in a band at a little studio. We would practice and then for like a few months, and then there'd be like a big show at the local pizza shop. And it was so much fun. I know that I liked singing when I was a kid, but around this time, like being an early teenager, there was a point where people started asking me, like, oh, you should sing this one. And then I would try and I would completely choke up and I would just like have a whole panic attack. And then that's when I really started suppressing my voice. And so this just feels like such a great opportunity to just say fuck it to all the times in my life that I stopped myself from speaking what I wanted to say, that I changed my words to make other people more comfortable or to make them happy or to not make them mad or whatever it was. And I've hid myself for a very long time. And this finally just feels like the moment where I just get to say no. And to consciously choose to leave that life where it was, honor that it served me and it kept me alive and it kept me safe for a long time, but not anymore. So this just feels like a giant, beautiful permission slip. And I just say, you know what, we're going to do this. Yeah. That's the main one. That's why I should be doing this. It's a chance to heal all of those times in my past that I didn't feel like it was okay for me to speak what I really wanted to say and who I really was and am.
Yeah. What else?
The next one is kind of the same iteration of that. But yeah, practice sharing my voice, speaking what I really want to say after years of suppressing myself around others. Surprise, I just naturally brought that into the space anyway. Love that this is an opportunity to continue to express my vulnerability around people. And I think the thing that really drives my soul with this is that just the thought that if there's one person, if there's only one other person out of the entire time that we do this podcast that listens to this and feels seen for themselves from something that I'm sharing or that's something that you're sharing, and we get to give that gift of comfort, of relatability, relief, like whatever comes up for them. If they can relate to anything that I'm saying, to anything that I'm going through, or anything that I've gone through, that just makes me so intrinsically just happy. And that is what I feel like ultimately fulfills me. Is I just want to be here to be like of the greatest service as I possibly can to other people. And if I can help them along their conscious journey, so that way they can go and, pardon.
We're clearing a lot of throat chakra today.
Oh, you know what? That explains it. Yeah, I had like a little coughing fit a little bit ago, and I'm like, oh my God, not now. But yeah, if I can get that to somebody, like that's all I want to do here in this life. I just want to be of service in the highest way that I possibly can for other people. And then they can go and they can help other people.
That reminds me, that just makes me think of this podcast as an opportunity. This is for us. You and I, we are doing this for ourselves so that we can practice being vulnerable, sharing our truth, telling our stories, being an example of what it looks like to be on a healing journey, how confusing and dark and like just weird and you feel crazy. But it's like we get to make the medicine for ourselves through this practice. And the possibility is that anybody who's drawn to listen, to receive, to look, they can have a little of that medicine so that they can help themselves. Use that as inspiration, or, ooh, maybe I'll try that tool, you know? So that's really the intention. But first and foremost, we're doing this for ourselves because we have to.
Yeah.
I really don't feel like we have much of a choice. We always have choice, but it really doesn't feel like
we have free will.
We do.
Yeah. But I think we're both very well aware that this is the first stepping stone towards the rest of the bigger and greater things that we will be doing together. Do you want to hear my last one? Short and sweet. Just because it's fun. It's just fun.
That's good enough reason right there.
Yeah. No, 1,000%. It's fun to have a little microphone in front of our faces. These little headphones on. Feels all like professional. And I'm like, ooh, I've seen people do this before. And I always thought, wow, wouldn't that be cool to have a podcast? And so here we are. Why the hell not? Why not us?
Yeah. I think it's also really telling too. And I feel like that's a really important piece to look at is when you observe somebody else doing something and there's something that comes up inside of you, like that, like lights up and goes, oh, that would be so much fun, wouldn't it? Like, listen to that excitement. But then you're also going to observe all the reasons why you shouldn't do it. Yeah. Because that's just part of what the mind does. So yeah, there's that. But I heard it from, I went to this event with like Bashar, like Daryl Anka, like channels Bashar, who's like out there. But he said, like, when you live your life, follow your excitement. Do the things that light you up, that excite you. If there's anxiety, that's just excitement filtered by fear. So I started looking at that. I'm like, oh, so when something excites you, but then like all of a sudden you're panicked, that's it. Really good information that you should do that for sure, and just acknowledge the fear around it. Yeah. And then you could just process that like, okay, I hear you.
And look at that. That is the exact feeling that came up in both of us around this podcast.
Super excited, a little afraid.
Yeah.
But you do it anyway. Feel the fear, you do it anyway.
Yep. And here we are. Episode 1. Yeah.
Sweet.
Pretty much wraps it up.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Navigating the Healing Path podcast. Talking about these topics brings us both such deep joy and also provides us with the growing opportunity to share our voices and our perspectives. We feel immense gratitude for those who choose to listen and follow along as we continue to create our own paths of authenticity and light in the world.
So with that, we thank you very much again for tuning in. And we would love if you joined us again next Tuesday, where we will be discussing self-awareness, one of the first main building blocks on this amazing, sometimes murky whirlwind of a healing journey. Have a good week.